Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. We have a great show today, but before we get to that, I wanted to remind you of a few things. We have 2 great books on Amazon that will help you get the Big Four job that you deserve, and I've included links to those books in the show notes. Additionally, I wanted to remind everyone to make sure that they subscribe to this podcast to stay up to date on the latest Big Four news and career tips. Also, make sure to share the show with a friend if you get a chance. Lastly, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll include links to all our social media in the show notes. Thanks and enjoy the show. What would the world be like without the Big Four accounting firms? That's what we're going to talk about today. We recently covered the huge scandal that is unfolding in South Africa with KPMG. KPMG lost some additional clients in the past day and is in risk of losing all government work and more clients in South Africa. KPMG South Africa's very existence and purpose is in question. Now KPMG is somewhat disavowing responsibility as a firm and saying there were some rogue people operating outside their framework and this is not up to their standards. But that's what all the Big Four say when any of this type of activity happens. The only difference now is that the country of South Africa is saying enough. They're saying to KPMG, you took millions of dollars in profits from our country without batting an eye, and you helped perpetrate this fraud by not doing a diligent audit. And this could potentially take down KPMG in the country. If all their clients say, we're not going to associate with you because you have this bad brand and the government says you can't do work with us, then what can KPMG possibly do in South Africa? Now, with that being said, what if this started happening to the Big Four around the world? What if people started saying enough every time one of these accounting scandals popped up? I mean, the Big Four would go under because they have these scandals all the time. There's always something happening. And would the world be any different without the Big Four? And we really do have to ask these questions as well because additionally, technology is poised to replace accountants. There's a lot of the literature and professionals and scientists are saying now. Accounting is a very monotonous job. It's about reviewing data and entering data. And those are the exact jobs that software and machine learning is poised to replace. With technology advancing and human error popping up more often within these Big Four accounting firms, what would happen if we lost them? First off, a lot of people would start losing their jobs. The Big Four average about 250,000 employees per organization. So if you multiply that times 4, you'd be out about 1 million employees worldwide. But people aren't saying that the world should be without accountants. They're just tired of these large accounting organizations resting on their laurels because of their big brands. There's employees within these organizations that feel like they don't have to do the work because they feel like the brand does all of the work for them. And they don't have to do a diligent audit because they get the KPMG stamp on everything. But KPMG is also letting these people operate in these rogue situations. And if you have multiple rogue situations all over the world, that's no longer rogue. It's actually culture, and your culture is toxic, and you don't have a culture of strong work ethic, and you do have a culture of this bad work product and these scandals popping up. There's something wrong with your company as a whole, and that's when society has to ask, do we really need you if you can't manage your worldwide organization? If you are a partnership, but if the partnership model isn't fitting and it's all you're doing is reducing your risk but not reducing society's risk, then why should society bear the burden of you going on in existence? And additionally, everyone knows the Big Four is a pyramid scheme with many employees on the bottom earning very little and doing most of the work, while the partners at the top earn a lot of money and do little work. If there weren't only Big Four accounting firms to work at, staff people could demand more money, as there wouldn't be only 4 large employers with opening positions for entry-level people. There would theoretically be more accounting firms competing for more young talent from the best schools in the world. Additionally, the market would have to find a solution for the audits of public companies if there are no Big Four firms. Right now, the Big Four have an oligopoly on financial statements. Most investors are used to having their audited financials audited by a large accounting firm. There would have to be a redistribution of the audits and establishment of new trusted accounting firms. But as technology advances, this comfort could also be provided by smart software and machine learning one day as well, to where you don't need a stamp on a piece of paper or a stamp in a audit software to get you comfortable, because a machine knows how to do that and people trust the machine, and we're really just auditing the machine. So there could be a lot more efficiency gain and a lot less human error with scandals. And audits could also be replaced with blockchain technology and limited audits of the blockchain. And those could be performed by smaller accounting firms as well. You wouldn't need a big four accounting firm to do that. Another thing that would happen if the big four were to go under is there'd be a more competitive landscape for accounting consulting practices. And this would be a tougher solution for most clients, because the big four usually do really well in accounting consulting because they offer the ability for clients to borrow tons of big four staff when huge projects pop up, like finance transformations or mergers and acquisitions. Large companies don't usually have staff on payroll to deal with special projects and extra work like a huge merger. This would have to be provided by multiple accounting firms if the big four were to go under, because the big four have so much staff that usually one accounting firm can address this issue. But there would have to be teaming between accounting firms for this to work on the largest engagements. And again, technology could theoretically figure this out as well. There could be some natural language processing that's able to scan documents for mergers and acquisitions. So is there a possibility without the big four for this type of work to be done? Of course, but the market would have to adjust and get used to working with smaller accounting firms and other solutions. And the big four are also huge revenue generators. They pull in about $30 billion to $40 billion a year each. And if you were to add them all up, the total would probably be around $130 billion to $150 billion range in revenue per year. This would be a huge economic impact if these were just to go away all at once. But also, theoretically, this work would be picked up by smaller accounting firms, and there would be other solutions, and the market would adapt. In conclusion, what's happening in South Africa is going to be a petri dish for other countries that are impacted by the implications of a big four accounting scandal. And the US previously had Enron, but all Enron did was destroy one accounting firm and consolidate power into the big four. But I think people are sick and tired of the big four and how they operate. The big four need to adapt and operate in a more ethical manner with less human error and less human scandals. Otherwise, they will soon be replaced by technology or more ethical accounting firms. I think the world is spotting more of these corporations that like to profit off of the backs of disadvantaged people or turn a blind eye to bad actors, and people are saying enough. And people are saying, if you're associated with bad things, you can't do business here. We don't want to do business with you. So the big four need to be cognizant of that and adapt. Otherwise, their very existence will be questioned, as it is in South Africa. So to stay up to date on all the big four news, whether it's good or bad, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and visit our website, big4accountingfirms.com. We are a growing podcast and a growing business, and we would appreciate your help in growing. So if you could share this podcast with a friend and give us a good review on iTunes, we'd really appreciate that, as it would help us grow and provide you with greater Big Four content and career tips. Thanks again.